An epic adventure of human power. If you turn on the news for more than 5 minutes today, it's easy to fall victim to the sensationalized, rating-seeking news stories of doom and gloom, and conclude everything is awful. This style of news causes us to miss so many of the inspirational and uplifting stories that we desperately need to hear. I'm going to share one with you today, and hopefully restore a little bit of your faith in humanity. Jason Lewis and Steve Smith, a pair of old college friends who had become increasingly frustrated with the monotony of modern life. It was while flipping through the Guinness Book of World Records that they found the adventure they didn't know they needed. They noticed that nobody had ever completed a human-powered circumnavigation of the globe. They decided to change that. After nearly 2 years of fundraising and preparation, the pair set off from Greenwich, England, on July 13th, 1994, for their epic adventure. In Lagos, Portugal, they met up with Moksha, their custom, purpose-built paddle boat. Yes, paddle boat. Moksha is a Hindu idea for the end of the cycle of death and rebirth, a very fitting name for their noble craft. They couldn't even begin to imagine the hardship that lay in front of them. So undaunted, they climbed aboard their paddle boat and headed west across the Atlantic. Pedaling constantly in shifts, it took the pair 111 days to make it all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, almost 5,000 miles to Miami. Apparently, this journey wasn't difficult enough for Jason, because while recovering in Miami, he made the decision that he would traverse the US on rollerblades, despite the fact he had zero skating experience whatsoever. Now, Steve would stick with his bike, and of course a bike and rollerblades have a very different pace. Because of this, the pair split with plans to meet back up in San Francisco to tackle the Pacific Ocean together. It took Jason many days and many scrapes, bumps, and bruises, but he figured it out and made his way westward across the US. After 2,000 miles, just outside of Pueblo, Colorado, only a few minutes from the rare treat he set up for himself, a hot shower and a warm bed, that everything went black. He awoke, every part of his body in pain, covered in bandages, in what he shortly would learn to be the hospital. He was then informed that he had been struck from behind by a drunk driver. If it hadn't been for the specific placement of the cooking pot in his backpack that acted as a cushion, he would have also broken his spine and likely been paralyzed. Thankfully, it was in the right position, protected his spine, so he only ended up with 2 broken legs. Regardless, Jason wasn't going to let a little thing like broken bones stand in his way. So lo and behold, less than 9 months later, he strapped his skates back on and continued his journey west. Steve, having been nothing but supportive for his entire recovery, met him in San Francisco as planned, with the Pacific Ocean laid out in front of them. It can be argued that this first leg of the Pacific Ocean was the most dangerous part of the journey. Their first attempt actually ended up with Moksha capsized, and they required rescue from the Coast Guard. Thankfully, they were able to try again, and it was on this second attempt, in 74 days, that they made it to Hawaii. At this point, it's September of 1998. Over 4 years since they initially set out. Well, in that time, Steve's plan for life had changed. The biggest change was Steve planned to be married to someone he actually met on the first leg of their journey between Greenwich and Lagos. So on good terms, Steve left the expedition, leaving Jason to finish alone. What he did next, by all rights, should have been impossible. But Jason did it anyway, suffering dehydration, malnutrition, blood poisoning, severe exhaustion, And on the edge of sanity, Jason completed the 3,500-mile journey from Hawaii to Tarawa, an island in the Pacific, by himself in a paddle boat through the doldrums, an area with a countercurrent. So there were many days that no matter how hard he pushed, all of his progress was lost the moment he went to sleep. He did it anyway. With perseverance and a little luck, he made it all the way through. Now, his recovery from this ordeal at sea did take quite a while, the better part of a year. But as soon as he could, he was back to it. Kayaking through the Solomon Islands, and then bike packing across Australia, ending in the city of Darwin. Now, it was in Darwin where he hit the proverbial wall. Unfortunately, real life reared its ugly head because the expedition was $106,000 in debt. Without other options, Jason was forced to put the trip on hold for almost 5 years while he pinched pennies and paid back everything that he could. But in all of that time, he never lost sight of his dream. Finally, in 2005, all of his debts paid, he packed his bags and continued his quest. It was in Singapore that his financial salvation finally arrived. The long sought-after sponsorship. It wasn't gigantic. He wasn't going to be staying in 5-star hotels by any means, but he no longer had to sleep on the side of the road. More importantly, he could now focus on experiencing the adventure versus paying for the adventure. For his next leg, he traveled overland through China, but was forced to travel mostly at night in order to avoid corrupt police checkpoints. Once past that, he continued through Tibet, through India to Mumbai. It was in Mumbai where he met Moksha for their final sea journey, 2,000 miles across the Arabian Sea, making landfall in Djibouti, north through Africa, and while in Sudan, against the odds, he actually ran into fellow British world travelers, Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman. The famous pair was traveling from John O'Groat, Scotland to Cape Town, South Africa on BMW motorcycles for their special long way down.
What are you up to?
Oh, I left England 13 years ago and to do a circumnavigation using only human power. So crossing Atlantic from Portugal to Miami in the pedal boat, and then crossing the US on rollerblades, across the Pacific to Australia on the pedal boat.
Well, listen, good luck. It's a pleasure to have met you. It really is.
You too.
I mean, how hard and how mean does this guy have to be to be doing this road, you know?
Nice to have met you, mate.
Yeah, you too. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
Good luck, mate. Yeah, cheers, mate.
In this heat, really, really hard. And on your own.
Russ Malkin, the producer of Long Way Down, actually ended up sponsoring Jason, giving him the final cash infusion he needed for the last leg of his journey home. Only one major obstacle sat in front of him. In 6 weeks, he still hadn't heard back on his Egyptian visa. With his non-extendable Sudanese visa about to expire, he was forced to take drastic action. In the dark of night, he attempted an illegal border crossing into Egypt. He was unsuccessful. Never in his life had he imagined being held under the suspicion of espionage in an Egyptian prison. But that's exactly where he found himself. To his surprise, when officials arrived, instead of charges, which is exactly what he expected, they delivered his long-awaited visa, wished him luck, and sent him on his way. He only had a little bit of distance to cover in his kayak, and then with his bicycle, he journeyed the rest of the way home. On October 6th, 2007, after 45,000 miles, 13 years, and the experience of many lifetimes, Jason Lewis became the first person to circumnavigate the globe using only human power. Skating, cycling, sea kayaking, and a custom-made paddle boat. And he traveled all the way around the world. He didn't do it alone. He had lots of support along the way. But if it wasn't for his sheer willpower, there's no way he would have completed the journey. So many countless times, all reason and logic told him to quit, yet he continued to persevere and accomplished something great. So next time you feel like people are just the worst, think about Jason and remember just how epic people can be. The wonder is out there. We just have to be looking for it.